Donald Trump's tariff policy is so objectively terrible that he's being openly mocked on and by Fox News of all places. And to add insult to injury, they are using a term which recently publicly triggered Trump into a total meltdown. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to play here, but just to tell you where we are. Here is a Fox News host having an interview with Rich Lowry, who is one of the editors of the National Review, a major conservative publication alongside the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post. They are nominally pro-Trump, but Trump's tariffs are so terrible that they're openly mocking him on air.
President Trump is the master of nicknames, but not happy with one now bestowed on him and raised by CNBC reporter Megan Casella.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats.
And I chicken out. I've never heard that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question.
Rich Lowry, is that question fair game, given that she's quoting what she says is the chatter on Wall Street, TACO, always chickening out?
Yeah, it's totally fair game. And apparently Trump was irritated in part because he hadn't heard it and afterwards was irked with his aides not telling him about this. But look, taco, it's catchy, kind of funny, and gets to a real phenomenon with the tariffs, which he's backed off them. Now, the case you could make for Trump, Ross Douthat in the New York Times has a very good column about this today, is that he's a maneuverer, right? And when he gets out over his skis and gets someplace that's unsustainable or really unpopular, he backs off, which is what a good politician does. But this kind of connects to the discussion we're having with Russia. What you don't want to have happen is everyone to conclude that he just makes these threats and never follows through on them. So I'm glad he's backed off the tariffs, but just overseas, he's going to have to make clear to people that he's not just a paper tiger.
Yeah, so do you hear that? The whole time, they're laughing at him. While Rich Lowry is talking, Rich Lowry is also laughing as well. These people are laughing at Trump, which I think is hilarious and well-deserved. And I should also note that Lowry is being a bit too generous here. Oh, well, that there's a case to be made, even though I disagree with it, that Trump's a maneuverer. When he gets over his skis, he adjusts. It's kind of like saying, my grandfather is a really good driver, because sure, he swerves off the road like a lot. He goes onto the shoulder, he careens into the guardrails. But as soon as he hits those guardrails, he grabs the wheel and gets back onto his lane. It happens a lot. Like he can't go a single mile down the road without hitting a guardrail and, and he'll stop like scraping on, he'll get back on the road. He's a maneuverer. That's horseshit. I mean, the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is objectively stupid and dangerous and thoughtless. And that's a really bad combination when you consider the amount of power that he wields, both over tariffs, unfortunately, in this country. Hopefully the courts will continue to check him there, but also the Republican Party, the only other major institutional check against him, and they are capitulating. So I'm wagging my finger at Lowry there, trying to, throw Trump a bone because it's really stupid, and Lowry would never do it for a Democrat, number one. But number two, again, I go back to, it's so obviously the case that Trump is in over his head and is over his skis. And he on some level himself is aware of it, such that his thin skin, his malignant narcissism can't tolerate. Imagine somebody who actually has the competence and the confidence that they know what they're doing is right. And they would get a question like this and they would react with calm, poise. We just disagree. They'll understand. Wall Street will come to understand the wisdom of my approach. And instead, Trump has a public meltdown because he knows on some level he has enough self-awareness to go, shit, they're right. They're right about me. Is it that obvious? I want to remind you of that full exchange. You saw snippets of it in the Fox News clip, but here's the full exchange that Trump had with a CNBC reporter who, by the way, she mocked him later about his reaction to it, in a post-mortem on CNBC, but she was not being disrespectful when asking him the question, at least not overtly. It was other people who coined the term taco, and she was just asking for Trump's reaction, and here it was.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me, he said, you got the hottest, we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, you know, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, you know, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, you know, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question.
Total, unhinged, 2.5-minute meltdown that betrays his insecurity, his weakness, his fragility. And even like the response he gave was vaguely coherent at best. And he's complaining 145% tariff. I was like, geez, that got too high. You were the one who imposed that tariff, dumbass. You did it via Truth Social. So he's almost like visibly confused. He's like, you know, who came up with 145? That got way too high. You did, asshole. You were the one who came up with it personally. So it just, so much was betrayed in that his insecurity, his narcissism, his fragility, his stupidity, his poor memory, his poor judgment. Just all of it wrapped into a beautiful 2.5-minute display demonstrating that this man lacks the psychological and mental fitness to be president, which is why, on the topic of tariffs at least, Rich Lowry and Fox News see fit to mock Trump about it. Again, I love it. Now, I mentioned that the National Review, of which Rich Lowry is one of the editors, is a similar publication to the Wall Street Journal, which is a sister publication of Fox News. So it's all tied together. This is what they had to say. The taco trade that has Trump fuming, just as a reminder, okay? This was from a few days ago. Trump took aim Wednesday, this was last Wednesday, at those on Wall Street and elsewhere who have questioned why he's moved away from some of his most severe policies. Trump rejected claims that he's backing down on tariffs, saying his strategy involves setting a ridiculously high number before negotiating it down in exchange for concessions. And again, there's been no tangible concession made by China, so he set the tariff at 145, scared the hell out of everybody, Wall Street, his own voters, everybody, and then negotiated with himself in public. Some have suggested Trump's tendency to announce tough policies only to backtrack on those pronouncements later is growing more predictable. They refer to the market's reaction as the taco trade, a term popularized by Financial Times columnist Robert Armstrong. Stocks rallied Tuesday after Trump said he would delay the introduction of new tariffs on the European Union until July 9th. That came after Trump's Friday threat to impose a 50% tariff on the EU within days. So he's the cause for all of this. He's not reacting to external stimuli or to people, starting trade wars with us. He's starting it, publicly negotiating down in public with himself in exchange for no concessions, and then clutching his pearls and taking umbrage when people question that. It's absurd, but there's a reason that even Fox News is calling this shit out. And I love it, and I'd like to see more of it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.